Hello and welcome to the Movie Gang podcast. Let me hit transition there so the take saying I already did actually pops up. Yay! Now you can see us. Welcome to the Movie Gang podcast. And if you're not watching this live, I am joined here today. I am your faithful host, Jack Newman, and I am joined here today by Ben Howarth. How are you, Ben?
Doing good. Just got a haircut. I'm about to go to Seattle for a wedding, so it's going to be a good time. These guys have to do the movies without me because I got a lot of stuff to do, damn it.
It's okay.
Though I do really want to talk about Valerian and Atomic Blonde, so I'm actually going to be kind of mad.
I know. It's okay. Oh, I actually hadn't realized that you're not going to be on for Atomic Blonde. That means I can, like, say whatever.
I know.
No.
I'm
going to be there, Jack.
I had a conversation. What do you mean? I like Atomic Blonde, but I'm going to have, like, I had a conversation earlier today with Ben. Like, he just says that Atomic Blonde's the best thing ever that's ever been in cinemas. Sorry, no, I'm joking. But
what if I do like it? Then you'd be mad you don't get to like hold it over me.
I know it would actually. That actually is the worst answer, to be honest.
Right?
That's
I love it.
That's like so much worse than like you actually being there. You just need to come to all of them. Obviously, we're also joined here today. Sorry, a little bit late on it, but Sarah, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Your hair
Thank
is
you. Going to
extra red today. I apologize.
It's probably because the orange tank top probably makes it look super orange or something.
No. Well done. Sorry. Go ahead. How are you? I apologize. I interrupted you.
That's okay. No, I'm good. I'm going to Austin with my girlfriend later this week for a couple of days, so it's gonna be good times. I'm excited. Our first road trip.
Oh,
that's really nice. Yeah.
It's a big one.
It is. Well, we're going to be talking here today about Dunkirk, which is the worst movie of the year in Jack's book. But before we get to that, we're going to talk... I'm joking. We've seen a lot of shit this year.
If you think it's worse than The Mummy, I don't know what to do for you, my friend.
I was about to say, it's not worse than The Mummy. But
yeah, I'm glad I missed that one.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, we have to deal with our overblown trailer corner because it is, of course, Comic-Con this weekend. And that means there are too many trailers for us to possibly physically deal with.
So sorry, people who we don't cover. Like, it's just there's too much. It's not possible.
I don't even want to like think about trying, to be entirely honest with you guys. Like, I'm very happy to take a run at like doing something like this, but there's no way.
No, we gotta just cut it down to like 3 or something because it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. All right. But first up on those 3 is, I think, for me, I guess, is the most important. It's not what's the most important trailer at Comic-Con, for fuck's sake. But for me, what I'm most interested to see was kind of shocking was kind of seeing the writing was, of course, Justice League. Ben, what did you think of the Justice League trailer?
It was interesting. I don't think I'm still super excited, but it at least showed a good camaraderie between the heroes, which is what you would want out of a good Justice League movie. It seems like they're starting to show how each of the characters are going to work with each other, which I really like. Like Jason Momoa is like a badass surfer dude, essentially, where he's just like crushes people, like, yeah, bro, whatever.
Well,
I'm Hawaiian, bro.
And Flash is kind of nerdy and awkward and cute, and Batman is just gruff and tries to make dad jokes, and Wonder Woman is just like the most gorgeous, beautiful person in the world. Like, they're just gonna keep doing that. So, like, even though they haven't had their own films, and it's been a complaint in the past, I at least feel like they've kind of figured out the characters, and that's the hardest thing to do for this, I feel like. So that at least gave me some hope.
I think the big thing for me is that, like, I'm glad that we've got, like, I was worried that the tone, they would never be able to hit the tone that was set in the first couple of trailers. But it seems to be like more jokes are coming out. And so now I'm like more confident that that it's not just like a trailer that's been kind of done in a Marvel style of like a gruff, gritty continuum of like these movies. But it is actually more of this comic book flavor, like fun style. And so if it continues to do that, which I think this is like the most confirmation that I've had that it is going to be that way, I'm gonna probably like it, or at least it'll be on a different. It'll probably be like the best DC movie to me in terms of having that. I know, Sarah, different days discussion about female representation, but like it is like the best. It'll be not even the best. It'd be the most Marvel DC movie we've had, which is for me would make it feel like the best. That's so loaded I can't even go. What did you think of it, Sarah? Like, that was so loaded. It's not even to do it. So while I put up this link, Sarah, what did you think of the Justice League trailer? Sorry, I'm trying to link while we do this. Go ahead.
I really liked it. gave away a little bit more of the story, or rather, I guess, encouraged more questions about the story. Was that Aquaman on Themyscira that we saw?
No, I think that
or
was
that just a clever transition.
They had that axe everywhere, which is bringing up a lot of questions about the villain. I mean, clearly it's Apocalypse, so it's Darkseid, but like, which villain?
I thought it was Steppenwolf.
It is Steppenwolf, but isn't he part of Darkseid?
Oh, I see. You're saying like Darkseid will come.
Like,
later.
yeah, like but like they're not gonna fight Darkseid in the first movie. Like they'll go to Apocalypse. Or
they'll
something.
hit him or the next one, like Thanos, and I get what you're saying. It's
yeah. He's definitely in the Apocalypse like pantheon in my view. And further for that, like I think that like that was definitely like that axe was showing up whenever the villain was showed up. Like we saw the axe in Themyscira, we saw the axe in Atlantis. I mean I'm sure there's like a thing where it's like, oh, the villain, like, you know, they don't want to fight with them, but then the guy goes to all their like homes and sacred places and fucks shit up, and then they all got to get together and do things.
Yes.
So as a fan of Wonder Woman, what do you think of the trailer? I'm kind of curious about that, Sarah. And how do you think they're going to change, like, because they are certainly kind of shooting the movie because of different reasons. And there might be a think that they might make Wonder Woman more the lead than Batman, which is what I feel like they started with, you know?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know that I want any of the characters to be the lead necessarily. I mean, maybe they have to just because that's how movies work these days, but I would love it if each of the people in the Justice League got relatively equal screen time and focus.
Which is always the plus side to Marvel, is that they do an incredibly good job of making the triumvirate of Cap, Iron Man, and Thor feel like leads individually. Definitely. I mean, definitely in the original Avengers.
There's
like,
definitely second tier Avengers. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Scarlet Witch only shows up for Avengers stuff, you know?
Right. Yeah. And clearly, like, even Thor kind of falls into the background. Like Cap and Iron Man almost always take more of a leading role than Thor to some extent.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe I'm curious if it'll be more Batman or more Wonder Woman, who's sort of the most screen time in this one.
I guess like I would like to see. Like they're gonna have, I guess like the biggest thing for me is like what kind of tension forms between them. Is it like a frenzy tension? Is it a sexual tension? Is something that like there's things like it could be done well, because not to be offensive, I'm a classic fan of like the JLA like animated series where Wonder Woman and Batman got together and Wonder Woman wears the pants and it's amazing. It's like my favorite thing. It's like my favorite thing ever, and it's also the best. Like animated Batman is the best Batman, and it's also like it's that great interpretation of him in combination with probably the best current interpretation of Superman. So it's just like, I know that these things can play out well, but at the same time I can see people freaking out if you have to cause sexual tension between these two characters, and it's like that's another take on it, even though there is history of sexual tensions in other medium between the two of them. Also, like,
that's true, and that's good to know going in advance.
Well, it's not,
if it does happen, at least it has precedent.
Well, it's precedent in the comic book TV show, like the animated TV show. It has no precedent in the comics. What has precedent in the comics is far worse, is the Superman Wonder Woman relationship, which is the worst relationship that's ever happened. Because why would you just sideline Lois Lane like that? Sorry, I got a big thing paused.
Yeah.
We need to fucking move on, though.
Too many.
There's too many.
Like, it was a 4-minute trailer, in fairness.
It was a huge trailer, and like that flash line got me. That was like the first time I was like, okay, that's funny.
Oh yeah, it's rude. It's a good line. It's a good line.
It's good.
And I mean, I think it's a problem with the humor in this movie that was just going to be something I think is going to happen. Is people are going to be like, is that Whedon? Is that Snyder? You know what I mean? Because like, it's not clear, because this is the first time he's actually been credited as a co-director. We don't know what the GGA is going to say, but like in the YouTube summary, the official upload, they credited directed by Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon. So like, I think he might have done more than they kind of want to let on, because maybe he came on earlier than they said. I don't know. I don't want to get into too much of it, but like, I think that's going to be a big thing about this episode, about this movie for a lot of people, is what was Snyder, what was Whedon, and you know, where are they going further based on what that means. I don't know. I don't want to get into it too much.
I don't think I'm going to enjoy that.
I don't like speculating that much. Yeah, no, I guess what I'm saying is I hope that doesn't become a thing. That's what I'm more aiming for. Like,
yeah.
Just see the film and just say the duo, you know?
Yeah, I mean, because if it's good, you're gonna be like, oh, so Snyder, like Josh Whedon wrote like 100%.
Right.
Whereas like Snyder has shit that lands. Like it's not. I don't know.
I blame a lot of the Man of Steel problems because I don't like Man of Steel on Christopher Nolan. You know what I mean? Like there are people who also are part of this universe. There's a lot of factors. So
we're gonna get to
not just one person.
I totally agree with you on that. In a minute. Sorry, I'm hinting, and I don't like it when I do stuff like that. With hinting, but let's go ahead and move on to the Thor Ragnarok trailer. Let's start with you this time, Sarah. What did you think of the Thor Ragnarok trailer?
You know what? I could just watch a movie that is a battle of Cate Blanchett versus an army of Pegasus, and I would be happy.
It's pretty cool.
I don't need Thor and the Hulk in there. I just need Cate Blanchett and Pegasus. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Which, of course, that's only going to be like a really small part of the movie, I know, but just she's
in a lot of the trailer. I'll give her that. So hopefully she's more of a character this time than other Marvel villains. I don't hope, but we'll have to see. After I've ranted about 80s nostalgia and Outrun music, it's like this one actually got me because it was a video game I played. They used a Hotline Miami 2 song, and I was like, whoa.
Oh, wow.
Weird.
That's a deep cut.
So I feel like that was a bit of I was like, oh, that's like a remix of a Hotline Miami 2 song. So I actually kind of liked it, and I feel like an asshole because I've talked about it before. But every once in a while, the Outrun music gets me. I can't deny it.
Well, I do think that was like our big beef over like the Atomic Blonde trailer, and I guess like I'm still very much like into sort of this thing, and I agree like it's I agree that it's like overblown, but I'm still like in the middle of it. I had 3 in a row.
You know what I mean? It's like Ready Player One, Stranger Things, and this, and it was like so much 80s.
Yeah,
like a lot of 80s.
I wonder if there's like any subsequent time in like the 90s when it's like the 70s were so cool for rock and roll. Actually, that's totally happened. It was just a different perspective and a different medium that it was focused on, where it's like this is very much like 80s pop culture, like the rise of pop culture.
You got to think about like Dazed and Confused was about the 70s. Because usually that's what happens, I think. And I don't know what the fuck is going to happen when the people from the 2000s are in charge. Like, I don't know, like new metal remixes. Like, it's going to be weird. It's just not going to work.
I mean, but I bet like people see this own, like, what I guess it's like, people in the time like could talk about a lot more generational stuff that was happening that no one remembers. Like, it's interesting to see what floats to the top and continues on. And I think that's definitely a point to like what we do. Like, what floats to the top of our generational stuff is like the new Star Wars and like how much we hated the prequels. Like, that's always on top of like, if any sort of like 2000s takeoff would be like, remember how bad Jar Jar Binks was? Like, it's sad that he like rates that high in the zeitgeist, but it's totally a thing. He's like a huge cultural touchstone for us. Is how much we hate him.
There's a whole meme of just putting Jar Jar Binks in the current Star Wars movie. It's like, that's a whole thing.
It's almost like just remembering. It's like President Bush. It's like sometimes when your future is so bad, it's like you're like, man, Bush was great, wasn't he? Sorry, I don't mean to like. I'm not even crapping on President Bush like specifically, but like I do feel like we have such a huge respect for him today as opposed to like 5 years ago when he was like literally.
Because once someone's not in power, like you're not living through it, it's easier to look back like and joke about it. But like when you're in it and you're terrified, you're like, oh no. But then like you look back, he's like, he's making paintings. Remember when he avoided that shoe? Yeah, it's fun. I think the thing about this.
Nuclear.
I think the thing about this trailer for me is that it has a lot more character. It feels like the first 2 Thors. That's what is excited for me. There's just. I think grounding him with Hulk is a great way to kind of appease both the people who want a Hulk movie, which recently Mark Ruffalo said that they will probably never be able to make a Hulk movie because Universal owns the rights and like they would get all the money from a Hulk movie, like a solo Hulk movie.
Yeah.
Versus they can just kind of put him in the other movies and they don't have to pay them because it's not called Hulk,
Well, did you see that
title
logo?
I think this is a good way to
title logo
appease both.
Yeah, and this is the thing is like this has more. This looks to me to have more to do with Planet Hulk and its mechanical DNA than it does like this is like I do think this is as close as we're gonna get to a Hulk movie per se, and it's going out like, and I think that's the thing is like I think that Marvel has always been brave in terms of like if something's not really working, they're okay with scrapping it and trying something else. And they've never been afraid to like change the vibe of every Captain America movie to like in my mind to like the better. I know that you prefer Winter Soldier, Ben, but like you can't, like I like
an idea with Civil War,
Yeah, yeah. But I think the point is like they never had to do like another version of it, and I think that's the strength is that they're never trying to sequel itself. They're trying to they're definitely in the school. They learned it once with Iron Man. You can't do the same movie twice and expect like the same sort of audience reaction. And I think that's where their strength comes in. They're X9ing the Thor movies and doing like this new crazy thing. I guess the big question.
A bit of Thor, a bit of Guardians of the Galaxy, a bit of Planet Hulk.
Well, I guess the big thing is, are you worried that they're X9ing Guardians of the Galaxy a little bit and stealing kind of wholesale from that aesthetic?
Yes.
Yes and no. I don't know. I guess I'm curious what Taika Waititi's take on it is. If it is Guardians or if he has his own version of that kind of visual space opera flair that he's going for, and it just kind of looks the same.
No, you're totally right. It could be a lot of things. Like you don't know. Yeah. You had a bit real quick. We want to do the last big one today, which is first though I have to say Kate Blanchett, dude. Jeez.
Yes.
Christ.
So attractive.
Jesus Christ. What is? She is just on fire. I'm just saying, man.
I mean, we saw her as the pure, wearing
Galadriel.
white blonde hair Galadriel, and now we have the other end of the spectrum where she's goth and has demon deer horns and shit, and she just looks great all the time, no matter what she's wearing.
And she's just got to bathe in the river of ham and just be like a total ham bone in this movie. It looks like it's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
she looks like she's having a lot of fun, which is great.
I just hope she's seen chewing the crap out of everything. Would be my point.
Oh, sure.
I really hope that she just goes in there and she's just like, let me take a bite of that scene.
Well, I mean, Thor offers that too, and they're like, you're in the Rainbow Bridge, and she's like, wee.
Yeah, she's like flying through space, and I think
you're surrounded by green screens. You got to make your own fun and imaginative.
Yeah,
that's what she's doing.
And I think that's like I think the big thing too is that Marvel has always had its ear to the ground way better than DC here, and that's like they recognize like the fan base wants to see crazy ass Vikings in space. Like that's what we want.
Yeah, like go for it.
We wanted it from the beginning, and they've not gone crazy enough, and now they finally pulled the trigger on the craziest version of it.
Yeah, Thor has always been that. Thor, I mean, the first one was like, Thor? Fuck Thor. And then you watch Thor, and it was like actually like decent, I thought. And you're like, oh.
No, I have no problem with either of the Thors. That's the funny thing about this. But they're probably not some of the
They're just boring.
Yeah,
they're not Yeah.
They're not straight. They're not straight bad like the Hulk or Iron Man 2 a little bit.
Yeah.
Iron Man 2 isn't straight bad. It's just that one is kind of
a mess.
It's an edited mess. It's the only thing in the universe that I'd say is edited really, really badly, as opposed to Thor's, which are edited well but boring, I guess would be my take. Yeah. I love Captain America, First Avenger. All right, well, this has gotten we have too much to cover and we're already off track. Ben, you had something to say about Ready Player One. Of course, there's the Ready Player One trailer as well, but you had a bit that you actually wanted to talk about real quick.
Yeah, I feel like this trailer is going to split a lot of people. If you haven't seen it, it's based on this very popular book, which was liked but kind of criticized for being very shallow. And it is sort of this idea of people who escaped something called Oasis, which is just a haven of 80s pop culture. And like they're escaping their nuclear destroyed out horrible world to go to this place that's like, and in the trailer you see like there's the Iron Giant and there's Freddy Krueger and there's the DeLorean and the Akira, and it's insane. It's like a licensing bonanza. I don't know how they did that. And for some people, like, just that is going to be awesome. And for some people, like, oh, it's like the worst version of remember this, remember that. My hope is, I think that Spielberg has been a very conscious filmmaker lately, and he's been pushing for adult dramas. He's been pushing for stuff like Bridge of Spies and Lincoln. And I feel like when he tries to go back and make something he used to make, like the BFG or the recent Indiana Jones movie, recent is almost 10 years, Jesus Christ. He
also Kate Blanchett.
He doesn't really go back to that really well. So my hope is that in this movie he's kind of using nostalgia as a take on modern problems, and that maybe it's about how we shouldn't be escaping in nostalgia because the world is like in deep dark shit right now and we should care. That's my hope is what the movie is, but it might just be about Iron Man, Iron Giant punching Doc Brown in the face. And so if that's the case, then all right, that's what it is. But I just kind of hope there's a little bit more to it than the trailer implies, which is just like fun. And it's fine for what it is. I just hope it's deeper. Is what I'm saying. But it's a take on something, and like it goes somewhere about actually talk about nostalgia rather than just bathing in it. That's what I'm going for.
Yes.
I think you can always trust him a little bit to take at least a deep. I'm not saying he's
moving away from the book apparently, which sounds good. Like that sounds.
Yeah, I guess my bit is that you can always trust him to try something. Do you know what I mean? Like he's never there's never been a movie where he gets up, he just gets on and just does like the expected thing. Like he always tries to have like quote unquote his take. And I don't understand where he's going for it, but I have total faith that it won't be something that you're used to. Do you know what I mean?
That's my hope. That's my hope.
Yeah. All right, Sarah. Actually, anything? Did you see the Ready Player One trailer, or you did not?
No, I didn't have a chance to watch it.
Okay, yeah. I am worried that it's gonna be a mess, but like
it might be a horrible mess. Yeah.
But that's like I wouldn't say it would be a mess from like a boring. It won't be boring. Nothing of it will be boring. We should definitely go see it. But it might be a mess. It's just I think that he's gotten a little less. I think he's gotten a little less directed with his editing in kind of the past couple of years. And I think that like the tightness of like filmmaking experience that used to define him has gone away a little bit, and that's like it scares me, especially for this movie, which I consider like just from thinking about it from the book perspective is an incredibly difficult property to adapt.
Yeah, so we got the properties at least. That's surprising enough.
I can't believe I mean, I don't know what black magic. I mean, maybe it's like the difference is like now he's good at studio life, so he's like used some sort of like dealing black magic to get all the properties together to actually do this movie, which is, you know, I guess that they're not doing that for Dark Tower. Are they going to have the guy with like the snitches for like bombs and stuff? It's
no way. I'm doing nothing about that. No.
Okay.
Not going to happen.
All right. So moving on. For you, the listeners of the Movie Gang podcast, Loot Crate is offering an opportunity to save 10% on any new subscription at lootcrate.com. To save 10% on any new subscription, go to trylootcrate.com/gang and enter promo code BRIDGE10 for 10% savings. We know that you could try this anywhere. You hear about Loot Crate all the time. You're like, oh, God, another Loot Crate ad read. Good God, do those guys just hand out Loot Crate ad reads to anyone? Well, the answer to that is yes, because they handed one to us. But you should also consider the fact that you're also listening to us and you enjoy us, and we would really appreciate you trying out Loot Crate if it will actually help maintain the Tuscan Shed Media Network and the Movie Gang podcast. And if you do that, they'll also get 10% savings on Loot Crate, which is also a service worth trying at least once. So go check it out. To save 10% on any new subscription, go to trylootcrate.com/gang. Again, that's trylootcrate.com/gang to save 10% on any new subscription and a promo code BRIDGE10. All right, moving on to Dunkirk. In May 1940, Germany advanced into France, trapping Allied forces on the beaches of Dunkirk. Under air and ground cover from British and French forces, troops were slowly and methodically evacuated, I almost said ejaculated, from the beach using every serviceable naval and civilian vessel that they could find found. At the end of the heroic mission, 330,000 French, British, Belgian, and Dutch soldiers were safely evacuated, which is a terrible summary for this movie.
It's just the summary of Dunkirk, the event. Yeah.
No, yes, I swear to God, it is literally the summary. That's the official one. That's the official one.
I'm sure.
Okay, and May journey. Yeah, no, it's right there. Okay, cool. So Dunkirk.
No, I believe you.
Go ahead.
Whenever they make a fucking biopic, they always just put the historical summary, and I don't know why. They always just be like, in 1941. You're like, no, it's all right.
I know what happened. I'm going to watch the fictionalization of what happened.
Yeah, what is this version about? Yeah,
exactly. Don't be a dick, movies. No, I'm just joking. But okay, let's start with you, Ben. I'm actually very, very curious, and you really like the new rule we put into place where we don't talk about it. So you've been quiet as a tomb. It's starting to get annoying to me, actually, like how you don't even like hint at it. So like, go ahead, please, just tell me where the fuck you stand.
So sorry.
No. I'm not mad. Like you were doing when I asked everyone to do better than I am doing.
I think it's a good rule.
It's a good rule. I just annoys the shit out of me.
This is funny. It's funny. Well, I'm going to annoy you more because I'm going to delay it. I think the big thing for a lot of people, and the thing that this synopsis does not tell you, which is, I'm glad we're a spoiler podcast because I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but since we're a spoiler podcast, it's great, is this film has a very unique structure. It has a very, very interesting structure, which is, just to say briefly how it works is, there's one section that's on the land that takes 1 week of time. There is one section where you follow like Mark Ryance's character on a boat coming to Dunkirk. That's 1 day of time. And you follow Tom Hardy's character in a plane shooting down bombers, and that's 1 hour of time. But they're all edited together, so you kind of jump in between time without that. And the film doesn't make it very clear at the beginning. It has little title cards, but like you could easily ignore those or miss them. And I know certain people have like been confused. Some people get it right away. So I don't know. I knew it beforehand, which helped a lot, which might be why I really like this film. My hot take on the Nolan is that I think he really kind of peaked at Dark Knight, and I think he's been way too focused on detail in his films lately. And because of that, I think the characters that he tries to create suffer. And so what he does in this film is he has no characters. And he has like, it is not really about characters. It is about groups of people, basically. And it is about like, don't make your teeth face at me. It is about groups of people. It is about sort of systems in a lot of ways. And because of that, either you're going to find it emotionally dead and interesting, or you're going to find it like he's just focused on the thing that he's really, really good at. And that's the way I take it, is that I think this is a very interesting, and I don't want to use the word art film because it is more conventional than I thought it would be going in, but it is very much in a style of an art film where it is this idea of jumping around in narrative and playing with the emotional stakes of editing and things like that. And that's what I really, really liked about the film, is that it was more experimental for me. It's not going to be up there with the films which do have better characters, like The Prestige and Dark Knight are better films for me, but I do think it's like my third favorite Nolan film as of right now, just because I'm very, very impressed with sort of this incredible, perfect technical mastery. But I'm curious if other people found it annoying because it is just a perfect technical mastery.
I mean, one of the best parts about you, Ben, is that usually when you like something and I don't, you outline why I don't like a film. But let's go ahead and move to Sarah.
Okay, well, I get the feeling Jack had a less positive view of this film than Ben did, and I'm really kind of in the middle, I guess. Just from a personal standpoint, regardless of how well a film is made, I don't enjoy war movies. So I didn't enjoy this film because that's straight up what it is. That said, I thought the music was pretty good and interesting, the way they set it up throughout the film, which we'll come back to that later and talk about it more specifically. The timelines thing, I didn't know about it going in, and I was thoroughly confused what the little subheadings of 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour meant. I was like, what does this mean? I don't understand. And then maybe about half an hour or 45 minutes in, I finally got it. And then after I adjusted to it and realized what they were doing, I thought, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it confused me, but after it stopped confusing me, I liked it as much as I can, like a war movie, which I don't enjoy. So there it is.
I guess my counterpoint for that would be like, again, Ben outlined a lot of tunes. The big thing that I have an issue with is the structure, and I knew about the structure coming into this, and it's not. I just don't. I guess my bit sometimes is like, I understand the point of the structure in something like The Dark Knight or something like what you do with like
Memento.
Inception. Well, I think the biggest thing is the oh my God, his magician movie. It's one of my favorite movies. The
Prestige.
Yeah, The Prestige, where you line it up in terms of working with the idea of like there's a device within the movie that informs the structure, which is really, really
right.
cool
Like
to me.
The Prestige is about magic, so it is sort of follows the rules of magic. Like
Exactly.
it's a 3-act structure.
Mm-hmm.
Memento is about a guy who's losing his memory, and he talks about how that's like living life backwards. So the movie is presented backwards,
Exactly.
Or rather meeting in the middle.
And this is
like you said,
just-
and Dunkirk is similar, where it's like, it's all about tension, and each of these people have the same amount of tension, but the same amount of tension over a different stretch of time. Where it's like to a person on the beach, a 1 week is about the same amount of like intense suffering and trying to stay alive as much as the guy on the boat for one day, and as much as the guy in the plane for 1 hour. And I think that is sort of what he was going for with that, why he did the structure that way.
I agree with that, and I think that the structure, like I'm never going to deny that he's like a masterful filmmaker. Like the way that he keeps and holds tension is great. I think that I have an issue with the fact that his tension doesn't dissipate. Like I don't.
It's a freight train at your face. That's what I heard someone say once.
But it's designed to be as such. But I don't. But I think that still comes. And he's a great filmmaker. He knows how to play with it. But I still I want something to let the tension up. Do you know what I mean? Like I want it to not be this freight train. I want it to have that. And that's just like classical film design versus like something a little bit nouveau. So it's not like something I can like really like criticize him on. He's doing exactly what I want. I just don't necessarily know that I like the structure of what he's doing. And more so
music plays a great part in that tension building thing.
The clock is great.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what's again
it never stops except for 2 parts in the movie.
Yeah, and when it stops, when he goes to sleep, it's like whoa, like I felt the air kind of rush out of me in that section, because he's played with that the entire time. The music is what's interesting, is because it's like it is the bridge to the whole film. Like that's what's kind of fascinating. It is the part that goes. The music doesn't change from one section to another. It continues the same sort of narrative function. So like at one point, one character is drowning in his plane, and another character is drowning. There's a little much drowning in this movie. In his boat, and then the other character's like running out of fuel. So it's all like last second. So the music is all about like last second. Will they make it out? If you don't like Hans Zimmer going da 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 da, you'll hate this movie. It's like
it will drive you nuts.
Here's my point to this, and this is the thing. Like Nolan classically has used his mechanical structure to the betterment of his movies. I say that Dunkirk, in my opinion, is his mechanical structure to the detriment of this movie specifically. This and it's this because this is a very specific like human interest story in terms of like it's about losing, it's about the humanity of giving up but then still going on and giving up again and facing impossible odds and having no hope. And it's a very dark story that then is rewarded in the end to this, and he uses it mechanically to then do something a little bit different about it. And you're absolutely right, Ben. He doesn't focus on the characters or the humanity, and I don't attach to any of the characters. And because of that, like the moment when we're supposed to have that heroic moment, and like Kenneth Branagh is literally on a pier crying in his admiral's uniform, and I'm supposed to connect with this moment, and I just don't. And that's the big issue for this movie, is that like even in that moment, the tension isn't like cut, and you just like they don't cut the tension at that like perfect moment, and they do all these things, and it's like I still just like I guess like it's just like I had more of an emotional visceral reaction to fucking Pearl Harbor, like fuck this. And that's that. No, I'm dead serious, Ben. Like this is just like this movie is very much like in terms of like what it wants to present. He doesn't want to present what we classically want from a war movie, and I'm agreeing with you that he sets out to do exactly what he wants to do. I just don't think the thing that he ends up making is a good thing.
Sorry, different. I think it works because it is different. You know what I mean? It is.
Yeah.
It is interesting to compare it with like Saving Private Ryan, another film from a huge director, came out in the summer. It was a huge hit, and this is had a very good opening. So we'll see how it holds, but a similar-ish kind of film. And Saving Private Ryan is very much a classic war film. It is very much a great, and another film I love. But follows a group of people, and they all have their thing, and they all die off, and every time they die off, it's very emotional. And this is just about groups of people who all look like Harry Styles, and one of them is Harry Styles, and they all often drown, and you're not sure who's drowning or why. And so I can totally understand that. I think it's just I love films like and it's not
Two Blonde Scotsmen.
And Two Blonde Scotsmen. Man, that shout out Tom Hardy. I can't praise that shout out Tom Hardy coming out of that plane more. It's just like the most gorgeous man I've ever seen in my life.
I love how like,
it was a Dior commercial where he was like
Movie Bob made this my favorite joke of this whole thing. He's auditioning to replace the lions on the shield of England. And I was like, yeah, it's good.
I want to see his escape from POW camp movie now. Like I want to follow him to that movie.
Yeah, and I guess that's further bit. It's just like that has a powerful, impactful moment. But I guess like maybe just from like a confusing plot structure, like halfway through, I was like, this is not working. If you never release the tension for me, I can't get involved. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I guess it's just a thing of like what I was saying is I like one of my favorite films of all time is a film called Baraka, which is a film that is made by a cinematographer.
I can't believe you're playing Baraka
the world for 10 years, and it's just I'm sure Andrew showed you Baraka.
I watched it with you on Blu-ray in your house. Like you showed me Baraka.
Okay, I showed you Baraka. Then that makes more sense. So I showed you Baraka, and it's and it is this just it is pure cinema in sort of the forms of like it is just visual imagery, and so I can certainly connect to that. I think the biggest detriment of the film is almost that he doesn't go far enough for me in that like I kind of almost wanted a silent film of like no talking or just the most bare minimum of talking. Like I kind of just wanted none of the hope or it's right across the channel stuff from Branagh. Like Branagh's kind of the most emotional heart of the movie. I kind of more prefer Tom Hardy where he was just talking in pilot talk and never kind of did any sort of weighty speeches or had any sort of character. He just sort of did his duty.
You know, I agree with that entirely. I think if this went like 60% more art house for me, it would have worked a lot better. And it's funny to me to even admit that to myself. Like I just like it's just as a movie, I just didn't enjoy it in the theaters in the context of something. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Kenneth Branagh just like there like being the soul of the film, and I'm just like God. And then and also like who's the I love the actor that Tom Rylance is just being like the heart of Britain
Mark
too.
Rylance, yeah,
and then
that's why I like it is there's you get your two classic British heroes. Mark Rylance is the classic stiff upper lip, we're gonna carry on and England forever and here's some tea, and like Tom Hardy is the sexy James Bond British spy version where he's like it's too hot and awesome to I shut down a plane when I didn't even have fuel. Oh, I'm just so cool.
I flew that plane on martinis in my tank, dry martinis.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
My plane was as dry as my martini. That's the joke. Thank you. It took me a while to get there.
He just shoots his plane with a flare and just waits there. The German's like, yes, I'm fine. My giant balls will protect me. Yeah.
I think I'll admit that like Tom Hardy, the plane bit, I have to admit, I am all in for.
You
like,
can at least
classic.
agree like the aerial combat, some of the best you've ever seen.
Oh my god, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Like and like the thing, it's like I recently watched Red Tails. This beats the shit out of Red Tails.
Oh god, I was thinking of Red Tails. I was thinking about how bad Red Tails was in comparison. I'm glad you thought that too.
No, I did. Because I didn't particularly hate the Red Tails movie, but the aerial combat is like trash. Where they're where it's like they do like the full spin around and he comes around and shoots the guy. Where this is all about like more classical aerial combat and tension and going through and
waiting for that perfect moment.
Yeah. It does such a good job with that. And that's the thing. It's like Ben. I'm never gonna say that any of this is bad because it's so technically masterful. I'm not gonna get into a fight with you.
Not always been. Sometimes with action, Nolan's been shaky, particularly hand-to-hand combat.
Oh yeah. There's none of that in this film, luckily.
Yeah.
It's like Batman needed to always stay in that fucking Batmobile.
Well, I had a question for you guys, how'd you feel about, which is another thing I've heard people hang up about the film, is that you never see the enemy. It's always sort of off in the distance. You maybe see some planes, but you never see like a German soldier. You know, you never have sort of the example in Saving Private Ryan, where he stabs the guy in the heart. Like that's the most like visceral there's the German, killing a guy, versus they're always off kind of in the distance. And I was wondering if that worked for you or if you felt like it was a detriment.
Do you want to go, Sarah? Me?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends how you think of the purpose of the film, I guess.
Yeah.
That made it just all the more English, which of course it's meant to be. It's about the British troops trying to stay alive, and then the British boats coming across the English Channel to try to save them. And I guess in that way, it's almost, I mean, it isn't, but it felt what I assume a propaganda film would have felt like. Because by not seeing the enemy, you can't get attached to the enemy. It's just there and threatening.
I disagree.
I think it's more propaganda in some ways to have an enemy. Just depends, I guess.
No, I mean, I think my bit would be more along the lines of it worked in terms of like creating an oppressive atmosphere. Like, you know, they're out there and they're shooting at them. Like, you see bullets from Germans. Like, it's like you just don't know. Like, it's like you know they're coming, but they're not there. Like, it's just like the German soldier in this movie plays like the black cloud of death coming from you, other than like seeing airplanes, which is I think a very effective use of them. I think it works towards creating the atmosphere. Because, like, let's say that you have a German soldier show up and, like, he's, like, sad or has a backstory or is a character that you have to connect with. I agree with you from the standpoint of that. I mean, there's no way that Nolan is creating, like a propaganda for Britain film.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
not what he was doing. That's just the tone that gave it.
That's fair. That's totally
He's very proud of being British. How about that? Like when all the British ships come over the horizon, that's one of the reasons he made that movie. You know, is to have that scene.
But like, I feel more proud of British people when I see a good episode of Doctor Who during the Blitz. Like, I'm sorry, I love you guys. I think that like the emotionality of it is so undercut by some of the structural things, and it's I think it's not because I think that's the big thing is like this movie is a different structure, and that's to its credit. It's on purpose doing that. But when it wants to have the ships come ashore and everyone is saved, like, it's not successful for me. Like, I think that the new, different structure undercuts the emotional, impactful moment of, like, this whole movie is suffering, and now when it wants to release the tension, it almost can't. Because, like, that's
I don't know. I almost teared up a couple of times.
I teared up at the end when the kid in the newspaper. I mean, I knew that was going to happen, but that actually did kind of work for me.
Poor George.
Yeah, and I did emotionally just connect to it just visually. I thought it was really nice.
Am I alone on that? I was like, what the fuck is all this? Like, oh, he
died.
I
liked
it's
it.
Like, and I thought it was dark.
Good.
Like, it was like he died for no purpose because of that dick bag, and they just let him walk away, and that was the whole bit. And it's like, oh, for the war, and he wanted to do this, and how do you remember people? And I'm like, oh, fuck that. Go get MPs, arrest that motherfucker.
That's always Nolan's trick. Something he does in Dark Knight 2 is the noble lie, and there's sort of a bit of that at the end too, where they're talking about, like, you know, Harry Styles is like suffering from the fact that he almost killed that guy, and, like, you know, all the things they'd had to do to survive and how tough it is, and they're like, all we did was just fucking get home. And then, you know, the propaganda version of it for them is like, we succeeded in getting everyone home, we're all proud of you, you know what I mean? And like it is part of that too, where like George just died because of a horrible situation, but like because of the you know, the way it was sold, he was a hero, you know what I mean? And whether you find that
well, George didn't have to go, and
not,
he didn't add anything. George did not have to die. I love you. I guess, like, the mechanics of this movie just don't sell it for me, and, like, I agree with the noble lie. There's so many Nolan tropes here that, like, they all just don't work as well in this movie for me, and that's just my problem with it. Is it's like peak Nolan. But the issue is that he's like restructured it into a former fashion that, like, he's trying to do a classical.
It's the exact opposite of Interstellar, for sure. Like, it is the exact opposite of Interstellar. Yeah.
And I don't necessarily love Interstellar. Well, I think Interstellar is a better movie than this, but I agree, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to come down hard on Dunkirk. I think it's masterfully done. Like, if you want to compare it to things we've seen recently, like, I can't deny, like, the drowning sequences, how, like, holy fuck. I think the other thing too is I needed more
for a
blood.
PG-13 movie. It's shockingly dark. Yeah.
No, and that's exactly it. It's like they go with the drowning, which is, I think, good, but like the lack of blood and gore at times almost makes it feel like sterile to me a little bit. Like
I agree and disagree. I agree maybe some blood, but I just think Hacksaw Ridge proved to me that just because you have blood doesn't mean it's effective, because I found Hacksaw Ridge blood comical. I found it such a level that it was.
Why is that the level? Like, we need
ridiculous.
Something. Like, I need some more blood from, like,
that's
George.
fine. I'm just saying I don't want to say just because there's blood is going to work.
Oh no, I'm not saying. I'm saying, like, specifically, like, I think, like, what's effective blood is like Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan. Yeah,
like, where you have where
like
that headshot has that visceral, like, holy fuck, that's what that means. Fuck this. Fuck. And then, like, I just needed maybe like a moment of, like, that death, or like somebody, like, being burnt. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying I need gore. I'm saying, like, this is a war movie. Maybe the sterility of it in terms of that, like, the drowning is just as horrible, if not more horrible for me personally in terms of them getting shot. But, like, at the same time, like, the absence.
Another Nolan trope. He loves his drowning because it's all in Prestige. Yeah.
I want to know if he was, like, drowned, if his, like, mother drowned him in a bathtub as a child. That's, like, something horrible. I don't know.
Insomnia has a drowning scene. He must really be afraid of drowning. Yeah. Must be afraid of drowning.
I'm actually amazed now that the Joker didn't drown anyone in The Dark Knight.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he had the boats, but they weren't blow up.
Oh no, I'm just kidding. It would have.
It's close.
It was really close to having like a vicious drowning circle. All right, let's go ahead and move on real quick. Are there any last takes before this?
I'll sum it up in my.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. For you, the listeners of the Movie Gang podcast, FreshBooks is offering a 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to try out their service. FreshBooks is a cloud-based accounting software where you can go online and access anywhere in the world via your secure login to check out your books, put in orders, do invoices, do all the things for your personal business or just your everyday life and get all your accounting in order and balance your books and get your best possible taxes back. So go check out FreshBooks.com. To try FreshBooks.com. To try FreshBooks free for 30 days, just go to www.gofreshbooks.com and enter the Movie Gang podcast in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Remember to enter that and you can help support the Movie Gang podcast. Or get a free 30-day trial at www.gofreshbooks.com/gang.
Woo.
Okay.
All right.
Now, first up on scores for Dunkirk. Sarah.
Dunkirk.
I give Dunkirk a 7. I recognize that it was really well done. Don't like war movies. I think I felt a little bit more emotional attachment than you did, Jack. I think a large part of that was due to the music, like as tension forever. Oh, we finally have major chords and tonal resolution, but tension. And so during that point, it may have been more a release of emotional tension than actual connection to the characters. I don't know. I recognize it was a technically masterful film, but I don't care to see it again because war movies are war movies. Not into it.
Yeah, cool. That's perfect. I don't know it's perfect. There's not a wrong or right answer here. I don't know why I said that. Sorry.
It's cool.
I'm tired, guys. This movie removed all my love of England. I need to go watch some Doctor Who. I'm just kidding. Ben, you're up next.
Scotland's better.
Yeah. Oh, female doctor too. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Get hype.
Yeah, I might actually start watching again.
Me showrunner too. So if you got bored, it might be a time to come back.
Thank God.
Yes, please.
All right. So I really like this movie. I think it's pretty obvious. Like I said, I respond to these kind of movies. I respond to movies that kind of do something unique with editing, with structure. That said, I'm very harsh on films that do try to do something unique with editing and structure and do it really poorly. And I don't think this film did. It is Nolan without the fat, whether it's good or bad. Nolan with the fat's kind of interesting to me. I don't know if I want to see him do this all the time. I certainly want to see him at some point do another $50 million movies because I feel like that's kind of his best mode that he kind of walked away from. But for me, this is his most effective sort of big movie he's done in a long time. That's all he does now these days is gigantic movies with crazy epic elements to them. And I feel like this one works a lot better than those previous three. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because I was just really blown away by the structure. I really got invested into the overall tone. And films that have sort of an overall emotional impact for me work really well. One of my favorite films of all time is Mulholland Drive, which makes no sense on purpose narratively, but makes so much sense emotionally, which is weird to say, but like...
Can't believe we're talking about Mulholland Drive.
But it is a similar-ish film that has a crazy structure that is hard to connect to, but that film has better characters, I'll admit that much.
Easier to connect to figure out what's happening in Mulholland Drive than this movie. Sorry.
No, it is not. This movie has the Nolan thing of like, it's very easy. Like, here's Cillian Murphy now, here's Cillian Murphy then. You get it?
Yeah,
okay,
and they do a good job
them
with
walking
the
over it
and
instead
the
of
planes.
this,
I'm not, again, we're good.
Yeah.
I'll get into it. Sorry. Try it again.
And actually, that's part of the thing I wish that he didn't do. I kind of wish it was a little more weird and experimental, but and the end kind of was. I like the George stuff, but maybe part of me kind of wishes he just ended when he fell asleep on the train, just like to push the point home. But I really liked it, and it's a film I want to see more directors try when they have this level of. Not many directors do, so I understand why. But it's interesting to see a guy at the height of his power can do whatever he wants, do something like this because it's so unconventional and so weird. Unconventional doesn't make it good, but I think in this case it did because he went for something that is emotionally resonant, that is structurally very creative, and a film like I really wanted to watch right afterwards. So like I guess it's between you guys. It's like I wanted to go see that movie the next night, but I couldn't because of scheduling issues. So that's just how I viewed it versus you guys. So 9 out of 10 for me.
I give it a 6 out of 10. I think that for pretty much all the reasons that Ben kind of is, I've Ben and me are saying literally the exact same things, and
it's a taste thing. It's
I get it. It's a taste thing, and I think that for me, purposely, like I've just not. I guess I'm less forgiving overall of artistic new stuff, especially. Maybe it's also in the context of like seeing it in Nolan as opposed to like other like if like I agree with him. Like I'd be much more accepting of this in terms of like seeing it in a nouveau kind of take on stuff. I think the purpose for this size of movie, and I think that's the other thing too, is that there's so many good war movies out here. Like he's trying to recreate the war movie, and I think it's highly unsuccessful. And I think that would be my take, is like compare this to something like Saving Private Ryan or something that's doing something emotionality. And I think that's the thing, is like for me, like I think that Sarah may have something a little bit there. Like the reason to do it on groups of people is for propaganda purposes. I'm not. Propaganda to me almost to some extent comes off like kind of cliche in terms of doing it. Like we kind of move past that, and that's why we want to do like human dramas when we do war movies. It's not about like who was wrong, who was right, which group of people was doing this, and it kind of takes the group of people in terms of a human drama take on it, and not the human drama that's happening within the German borders. And I think that's the thing, is because that's why like in the past years, like we're forgetting that like war movies went to the human drama as a way to make them real and understand how like the monumental efforts that went into these wars and what happened. And that's the thing, is like that's kind of missing a little bit here, is the humanity of this movie. And I know that like it's cliche to say that Nolan is a machine man at this point, and I don't think it's a cliche classical thing. Is I don't think that's true of a lot of his movies. But I still think that it's very mechanically lacking that classical punch of movies. And I think that like maybe it's good in terms of that for expectations, like by subverting the expectations of the classical, like heroic, like war movie, that's an interesting thing. But at the same time, by by subverting the structure of like release, tension, release, or subverting that. And a lot of films have subverted that in a small way, but never to this extent of like, let's tension. And I think the reason that the opposite is good filmmaking, to tension, release, is because I think over the course of this movie, I became hardened to the movie as a thing. And I became hardened to the action. I became hardened to the events. I became hardened to the people. And by the time it wants me to have a real emotional reaction with the boats hitting the beach and then the glider glowing overhead, I just got nothing left in the tank to be there with them in terms of caring. that was just my reaction. And that's my thing. It's like, it's not just that, like, I agree. Like I'm a little bit harder on like structures that pull it out. And I just think that this is like, if you were to show me these two different types of war movies, I know that one has been here forever and this is like new and interesting. At the same time, I think this one is so much less successful from the viewpoint of looking at wars and understanding what war was. And that's up for debate. Clearly, we have like the exact same opinion, and just see. Apparently, we're looking at the same thing, and one of us is colorblind. We don't know who is. You're seeing two different things. But that's.
I mean, that's the thing, is I saw this movie and I was like, I want to know what the cinema score is. I haven't even checked, because I'm like, it's one of those things. Like, I can see audiences hating this movie, like, or loving it. Like, I have
I have no idea where it is. Like, I actually haven't even looked at Rotten Tomatoes. People are supposed to like it. I thought
it's doing well on Rotten Tomatoes.
I mean, critics loved it, and I kind of expected that. Critics loved Gravity too. It's a similar sort of like when something new like that comes out, new cinematic experience.
I'm sorry, it's bad to this extent that like if critics love something, I'm not automatically like, oh, that's a point in its favor.
A little. Cinema scores an A-. I'm actually surprised. It's actually pretty
It's
good.
Pretty high. Well, I think too for war movies, I do think that there is this typically war movies are more highly rated. Like what's I guess like Pearl Harbor is still like one of his most highly rated movies. It's just so stupid.
No, it's not. People hate Pearl Harbor.
Well, people hate Pearl Harbor when it came out, but it's still like in comparison to like, I don't know. We'll get there.
I'm curious now.
yeah. I still think Pearl Harbor's a better movie than this.
Oh God,
I'm joking. No. I'm joking.
No.
If you take out like the hour and a half love love story in the first part of it, maybe.
So the whole movie? You take the whole movie.
If you condense Pearl Harbor to the last 30 minutes, it's okay.
Which is what this movie kind of was. So
it's actually like super accurate. All right, from everyone here at the Movie Gang podcast, it is now time for all of you to get off and go watch Game of Thrones. So it's just been Haworth.
Yeah, winter's coming. That's all I got.
Sarah
Actually, it's here already. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is here. Sarah Becker.
Thanks for listening.
And I've been your host, Jack Newman. I gotta go turn on Game of Thrones, so no plug out today. Bye.
Yeah. Yep.